What can I help you with? Soraya. 4?
Yeah.
Okay, number 4, it says name 2 angles that are supplementary to angle 1, pictured at the right. So here's angle 1. What does it mean to be supplementary? Add up to 180. If I were you, on your note card, I would write this. Complementary 90, supplementary 180, because those get mixed up a lot, and it's silly to mix those up when you could just write them on your sheet, right? So 2 angles that are supplementary to angle 1. If you look here, basically what that means is we are trying to make a straight line. So which angle will help us make a straight line with that angle 1?
6.
Angle 6, right? This is a straight line here. So here's a linear pair that will add up to 180.
2.
What's the other one? 2, right? This line right here also makes a straight line. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 6 are both supplementary. Okay? So 2 and 6 is what you're looking for there. Part B says if the measure of angle 6 is 22, what is the measure of its supplement? What do you have to do with that? 180 minus 22, right? We'll give you the measure of the supplement. So supplementary 180, complementary 90. Other questions?
Can you go, well, actually, number 7.
Okay. 7?
Yeah.
Okay. 7 did have a midpoint. Sorry, I said just length. You had midpoint there. My bad. So for the midpoint formula, and again, this is one I would absolutely write on your paper. Midpoint equals x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2, right? That's the midpoint formula. So if I'm going to find the midpoint given 2 points and find the distance, okay, the length of a segment is distance formula. Distance formula is going to be this, the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, okay? Can I tell you a pet peeve of mine? When people have this written down on the final in front of them, and then they plug the wrong things into the formula because they use the wrong formula. This is always addition. These are subtraction. Don't forget to square them, right? It's all going to be on there for you. You literally are just dropping numbers into it. Make sure you drop them in correctly.
Wait, what is that one for?
This is the length of a segment, distance formula.
And both of those are on the test.
This is up at the top, that's up at the top, and then the other one that's up at the top is slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So those are the 3 that you'll see at the top of the multiple choice section. This is slope. Elena, did you just have your hand up? Okay. Did someone over here just have their hand up? No? Okay. So for number 7, if we're going to find the midpoint, here's what I highly recommend you do. Call this x1, y1. Call this x2, y2. And now plug that into this midpoint formula. So it's going to be x1, negative 1, plus x2, which is 2, divided by 2. And then it's going to be y1 plus y2 divided by 2. What is your x coordinate? 1/2. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1 over 2. And then 5 plus a negative 3, that's 2 over 2, so that's 1. So your midpoint is going to be the point 1/2, 1. Okay, 0.51, same thing. I'm fine with that.
On the test, would it want us to convert it to a decimal, or should we just leave that as
You could go either way. Yep.
Do we have to graph on the test?
Potentially. Yeah. So the length of AB, then you're going to do distance formula with that, but using the same information here. So you're going to say the square root of, it's going to be x2 minus x1. Be careful with that because it's a minus a negative. And then we square that, plus y2, negative 3, minus y1. And you square that. Okay, now you simplify that. 2 minus the negative 1 is 2 plus 1. So that's the square root of 3 squared, or 9. And then negative 8 squared is what? Positive 64. Don't make that a negative, okay? If you plug that into your calculator, negative 3 minus 5 squared, your calculator is going to tell you it's negative 64 because it thinks you did the opposite of 8 squared. You're doing the opposite of 8 squared, right? Negative 8 and squaring it. So that's plus 64. And then you simplify that. 9 plus 64 is the square root of 73. And that's where I would plug it into my calculator. And the square root of 73 comes out to 8.5. Okay, do you want to do the midpoint, find the endpoint while we're at it, since we're right here, number 8? This is the one that probably gets done wrong the most, I feel like, in all cases. It says the midpoint is this. So this is your x midpoint and your y midpoint. The coordinates of one of your endpoints are 7 and 1. So I would call that x1, y1. Find the coordinates of the other endpoint. Find the coordinates of x. So this one you're going to plug into the midpoint formula, but separate, right? You're going to plug in your x values first, then your y values in a different problem, and then combine them at the end. So your midpoint, 3, equals your x1 plus your x2 divided by 2. So I'm literally just plugging it into this formula with the midpoint over here by itself, okay? So that would be for your x's. For your y's, you're going to say the y midpoint, negative 5, equals y1, which is 1, plus y2, which we don't know, divided by 2. How do you solve that? Callie?
You can multiply both sides by 2.
Yep, multiply by 2. So you get 6 equals 7 plus x2, because this is 1. Take away 7, and you get negative 1 for your x2 value. Okay, over on the other side, multiply by 2 and multiply by 2. So negative 10, this is 1, equals 1 plus y2. Take away the 1, take away the 1. So negative 11 is your y2 value. And your answer then, your endpoint, is negative 1, negative 11. Do you know how you could check your answer on the endpoint problems? You have 2 endpoints now, right? You have 7, 1, and you have negative 1, negative 11. If you plug those into the midpoint formula, if you plug those in here, what should you get as your answer? 3, negative 5, right? You should get the same midpoint that you started with. If you don't, something isn't right. Yeah, Joey.
Is that like is that the formula where it's like xm equals x1 plus x2 over 2?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's for-
an endpoint?
That's if you're going to find an endpoint. Yeah.
Which is what we just did.
Which is what that
That's not
problem
on the
is.
test, so that formula is not on the test.
I mean, it's the midpoint formula.
Oh, okay.
Right? You're using this same formula. You're just putting things into the midpoint. Like you're putting something in this spot instead of putting everything into the x and y values over here.
Okay.
But it is the same formula. It's just broken into 2 pieces. Soraya.
For like number 7, number 8, why did we, like it said find the midpoint for both of them, but we did 2 different?
No, read number 8. It doesn't say find the midpoint. It says the midpoint of xy is. So they told you the midpoint on that one. It says find the coordinates of point x, and if the segment is xy, x is an endpoint of that segment. Yeah. So just you gotta read the directions carefully there, what you're looking for. Callie.
Wait, how did you say you can check your answer?
You check it by taking the endpoint we started with here and the endpoint you got, right? So those are the two endpoints, potentially x and y. If you plug those into the midpoint formula, you should get the midpoint that they gave you to start, right? So you kind of just do the problem in reverse a little bit. Okay, other questions? Yeah, Amaya.
Can you go over 9 on C? Because I put SAS. Why is it 8?
Yes. So this is reflexive, right? You have a right angle with a right angle, which doesn't have to be HL, but it should make you think like, oh, this might be HL, because HL can only happen if it's a right angle. And then this is a leg, and this, the side across from the right angle, is the hypotenuse. So if you have the hypotenuse with a right angle and you have another side, it has to be HL. If you have the two legs, like let's say it was like this instead, that would be SAS. But if you have this side across from the right angle, it will be HL.
Thank you.
Or not enough info if you don't have enough information.
Why is that like not enough information? How do you just know that there was a people there?
D isn't not enough info. Is that what it said?
No, I'm saying, how is it not? Like, did you just know to draw an angle?
Oh, you thought it was not enough. Okay, yes. Vertical angles, remember that was one of the things that you don't need marked for you. We always know that vertical angles are congruent, and these are vertical angles. So even though they're not marked, I know those are congruent. So now I can say angle, angle, side with angle, angle, side.
Okay.
What else? 1 through 17. Do you have questions on? Jaden? Okay, so 6. Remember we did trapezoid mid-segment and we did triangle mid-segment. If I were you, I would put both of them on there so you don't confuse them. This is the trapezoid mid-segment, right? Triangle mid-segment is the one where if this is congruent here, and this is A and this is B, we would say that A is half of B. Okay, so if it's a triangle, you just cut that bottom piece in half, or you double the top piece, the shorter piece. So if I know this is half of this, then I can double the 10 and set that equal to the 5x. Remember, this is where so many of you want to just say 5x equals 10. I need you to stop and be reasonable, logical thinkers in these types of scenarios. Do 5x and 10 look like the same length? No. So don't set them equal. They're not the same. You have to think, okay, what do I have to do? Well, if I make this one longer, if I double it, it will equal the 5x. So 2 times 10 is equal to 5x. So 20 equals 5x. Divide by 5. So x is going to be 4 for that. Okay? What else? Pretty good on 1 through 17? Yes, we feel confident. Okay, did I mention this before? When I made this worksheet, I took the final exam, printed it out, laid it out in front of me, and went, I need a question like that. Put it on here. I need a question like that. Put it on here. I need a question like that. Put it on here. So if it is on here, I promise it's on the final. If it's not on here, that doesn't mean it's not on the final. But this worksheet covers majority of the concepts you're going to see, okay? If I could highly recommend something to you, it would be to take your notes, chapter 1, page through them. Oh, here's a formula, put it on the cheat sheet. Here's another formula, put it on the cheat sheet. Here's a theorem that I know we used a ton, put it on the cheat sheet, okay? Go through all your notes, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Methodically. Go through all your notes very methodically. Make sure you don't miss anything. Get it all on your cheat sheet. That is a lot of space, you guys. If you write small, you can fit a whole lot of information onto this front and back, okay? So do a good job with that. That will be very helpful. And you should be in good shape then. Any other question? Did you have one, Jaden? I thought I saw your hand go up after I started talking again. No, that's fine. Which one? 14? Okay, so a kite. Here's the other, we just did all of this, right? But chapter 6 was kind of a tough test. I have your tests for you, by the way. I'll hand those back when I'm done with this. Chapter 6 is tough because it has a lot of properties, okay? If I were you, remember that picture that we drew with all the markings? I would draw that picture on your thing. Start with the quadrilateral, go to one pair of parallel, two pairs of parallel, and no parallel sides, and draw all those shapes in with all the theorems that apply to it, or write them out. If you'd rather have words than a picture, write out the theorems, the properties that we did. Okay, so this is a kite. Tell me what you know about the diagonals of a kite. They are perpendicular. So number 1 is 90 degrees. Okay, so this is 90. That being the case, now look at this triangle. You have 90, 51, and angle 3 that have to add up to what? 180. So 90 plus 51 plus the measure of angle 3 will be 180 degrees. Take away the 141, and you get the measure of angle 3 is 39. Okay, so this is 39 degrees. What's angle 2? Not 39. This one would be 39, right? That one gets bisected. What's this one?
51.
51, same as this one. Okay.
And why is it the same as that?
You end up with, if you look at this, right? That's an isosceles triangle, and base angles have to be congruent. So this angle down here would have to be the same as this one down here in that isosceles triangle. Yeah, Sebastian.
Trapezoid overhead form an altitude and form a circumcision.
How to construct them?
Yeah, how to construct.
Yeah. I'll do constructions. Shoot. I'm going to do them up here. I'm going to make my own thing.